we are here to celebrate the 75th year anniversary of the Ramakrishna Monastery, Trabuco. Actually, this year is the 75th year. We will have another great celebration. It will go on all through the year. This is starting, and we starting time of the year. So every month there will be some program to celebrate this great event of 75th year of the monastery. Monastery idea is not uncommon in both in Catholic tradition as also Buddhist tradition and Hindu tradition, of course. And in many traditions, this idea of giving up everything for God and dedicating one's life for God realization. So create an environment. These monasteries play a great role. It is the idea, but this idea, based on the idea of universality of all religions, based on respecting the ideas of all traditions, building up our own spiritual strength and get established in our spiritual dignity, is a unique thing in the Ramakrishna tradition. It is very interesting to note that this monastery in our Ramakrishna tradition, for the convent also started here much earlier than that, even Sarada Math, which is established in Belur Math. Not Belur Math, but a separate organization though. So this is a pioneering idea, a great grand ideal. When Swami Prabhuvanandaji was here, many were attracted to this ideology of self-realization and dedication for the others. This cause, Atmana Mokshartam Jagathitayacho. Many young boys, inspired by this, dedicated their life for monastic life, and this monastery started with that. It is a great history. I am not going into it. All the respected Swamijis are here to talk about that, and nuns are there. They will talk about all these details. But it is a glorious journey for 75 years. This monastery is continuing from very small beginning, and it was started for teaching Eastern religion, and then it was ultimately given to Swami Prabhuvanandaji. So this is a great history, and it is at least a great thing that this monastery is still continuing and vibrant, and the spirit of dedication and God realization ideal and service to others is being emanated from this place. Many people feel attracted for this place. I do not know why. Particularly when I see that we don't get enough people here and there. But this spot, Trabuco, has such a silent attraction. People, if they get Wednesday evening, people are rushing to come over here, to not lose that opportunity to come even in the evening time, rain. And I am surprised the number of our Sunday people who come over here, they are attracted here. The hall mostly becomes full. And what is that attraction? I think it is these monastics who lived their isolated life and dedicated their life for God and served and served and served in the silence, not in the glamour of the light of the day to show their greatness and other things, but humble living. Their compact effort of their spiritual living is manifesting through this monastery, and this monastic idea is a very contagious thing, not in a negative sense, but in good sense, because when they see someone dedicated this way, they feel inspired to give up their own personal many things for the good of others and for their self-realization. Anyhow, so today we welcome you, particularly our Swamis. Swami Chetananandaji is here, Swami from St. Louis, Prapananandaji is here from Sacramento, Brojoprana is our convent from Sarada convent in Santa Barbara. And then Tattvayananda Swami is also here from San Francisco, and Anantaprana is also from San Francisco, the same center, and Ishatmananda Swami is here from Chicago. So we are all blessed with this presence of all these sadhus and nuns to inspire us and to take us to the history back, how it started, how it is going on, and how other traditions have that spiritual ideal. So I welcome the Swamis and also all the devotees who are here and the nuns and monks. So now I pass it to Swami Arupeshananda, who stayed here for a long time, and he to MC the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. I think probably all of you know that Swami's... Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So thank you, Swami Sarvadevananda, for that introduction. And I think we all know that Swami Sarvadevananda is the head of the Vedanta Society of Southern California, the spiritual leader. And my name is Swami Arupeshananda. He introduced me already. And today's first speaker is our most senior and very loving Swami Chaitananda. Swami Chaitananda is the head of the St. Louis Center. And he actually is going to speak on the history of this place because he lived here back in the 1970s. Swami, of course, came from India to this country in 1971. And believe it or not, I was actually there at the airport. And this was a story my father told me so many times when we were growing up, that he was the only person to meet Swami Chaitananda when he got off the plane. Now, I'm going to get some corroboration from this today, because I grew up with this, and I don't know if it's a myth or not. But what I was told is everyone else went in another direction. They all went to some other terminal. And my father was the only one to actually greet the Swami when he got off the plane. And then afterwards, they all met up again and greeted the Swami. And I have one nun who is vigorously shaking her head over here in the negative. So we're going to hear Swami maybe will clear the record, and I'll know if this childhood myth of mine is actually true or not today. Anyway, so Swami Chaitananda is going to talk about the history of Trabuco Monastery. Swami.
Rupam rupa viparjayasya bhavata dhyanena jatkalpitam stutya nirvacaniyata akilogiro durikrita janmaya vyapitvancha nirakritam jattirtha jatradina shantavyam jagadisha doshatra vikalamat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Oh Lord, I make 3 mistakes in my life. The first mistake, I know that you are formless, infinite, but for the sake of my meditation, I imagined your form. That is my first mistake. My second mistake, I know you are beyond expression, Abang Manusha Gocharam. But for the sake of my prayer, I eulogized, I glorified your name. That is my second mistake. My third mistake, I know you are all pervading, you are everywhere. But for the sake of my pilgrimage, I travel place to place to see you. That is my third mistake. Lord, please forgive me. Tribhuka Monastery. Which was started in 1942 by Gerald Hurd. Gerald Hurd, Aja Saksade, Christopher Isharoj, they are all pacifists. Second World War started. They are very much against war. Some migrated to the USA. So, Aldous spent 6 weeks in this monastery and began to write the perennial philosophy. I'm just telling you that Christopher Isharoj, after Swami Prabhupada translated the Bhagavad Gita, he stayed here and educated the Gita. Swami Prabhupada told me. It is a very, very important place. Gerald established Trubhuko College. "300 acres of land. This place was very remote. I shall tell you when in 1977 how we came here. It is a very, very remote. When I came at that time, there is no Mission Viejo, no lizard world. From our 1400 peak, we can almost get the glimpse of the ocean. It is a so beautiful place, I cannot tell you. I shall glorify more about Trubhuko. Gerald wanted to experiment the medieval Christianity. And he was influenced by Hinduism, especially Prabhupada. And he wanted to start these Eastern religions and Western things combined, how to do it. So he did all kinds of experiments, and it must be a non-religious, non-sectarian, co-ed monastery, unaffiliated any particular religion, medieval Christianity. I shall tell you one story first before I go further. There is a book called The Creed of Christ by Gerald Hurd. He is one of the best speakers all over the world. I have his tapes, his voice, his diction, his delivery. Fantastic. Prabhupada told me when he used to speak in Hollywood Temple, overpacked, overflowing. Very famous man, great thinker, great orator. He wrote the book, The Creed of Christ. Do you know what happened? It was in 1400s. Gregory Chain was the Pope. And St. Thomas Aquinas, both are seated together. Seeing the European revenue going to Vatican, Gregory said, that day is gone when Christ could say, when the church could say, gold and silver and gold have I none. Thomas Aquinas said, that day is also gone when the church could say, rise up and walk. Do you know the behind? It is after the Pentecost, the disciples of Jesus got power. So when Peter was entering the church, A born lame person was asking Peter, give me something. Do you know what he said? That statement he says, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk. That man was healed instantly. Born lame, walked with Peter into the church. So everybody asked, who did it? Well, Peter, not he, not me. It is the Father in heaven. That incident inspired. Then what he did, it's Hindu monastery. He was very much influenced. And then he wanted to combine. And what the movement, he put human potential movement. It is if you see the architecture of these buildings, it is an Italian architecture, rugged, rough, austere, red bricks. You can see that it is a monastery in the medieval period in Europe. Bell. He wanted something unique. Trabuco College. What happened? That temple, shrine, is something unique. It is nothing now. When I first came, it was 6-7 feet deep, dark carpet. Many people would fall. There is a row after row there. Then the brothers say, no, Swami, we shall lift it up. So our brothers, they lifted up. So you see quite a high. It was really like an Himalayan cave. And that shrine is something unique. If you go inside, goodbye, world. I remember, I recorded 6 hours my chanting tapes in that hall. Echoes of the eternal, breath of the eternal. It is a tremendous echo. All the recordings are done there. That shrine is something unique, really unique. If so many people come just to go to see our shrine in Trabuco. Anyhow, Gerald couldn't make it, financial problem. And then came co-education, you could not work in the monastery. So in 1947 he closed the college. What shall I do? Let me give to Swami. So it is 7th September 1949. This monastery was handed over to Swami Prabhupada and he gave the name Ramakrishna Monastery. And then came that Melvin Hoffman made the Swamiji's statue you have seen. That is really gorgeous. The moment you enter, you can see the magnanimity, the majesty of this monastery. Very famous, Melvin Hoffman, you remember. She met Swami Vivekananda. My first visit to Trabuco, 4th July 1971. Nearly 500 people would come here. Swami Pavitrananda, Prabhavananda, myself, Ashoktananda, all these people. What a festivity. The monks used to cook, all these people. That was the opening. 4th July is their annual festivals. Hollywood monks, Santa Barbara monks, nuns, all would come to Trabuco. Then monks built that cottage, Brahmananda cottage, for about 4 Swamis. They worked. 1971, 8 brahmacharis took vows in that library. I still remember the name, Turiya Chaitanya, Bhuma Chaitanya, Atma Chaitanya, Veda Chaitanya, Aveda Chaitanya, Nitya Chaitanya, then Sat Chaitanya. These 8 brahmacharis took vows. I remember I had a hard time to put cloth around our shivas. She was clothed down, pulse. I tied Shiva's dhoti. Shiva, you remember Shiva. Hollywood to Trabuco, 65 miles, 1 hour, El Toro. When I came, there is no buildings in Old Toro. One Savon drugstore, one bond market, one gas station, gas 24 cents per gallon, and is the little small church, no building. Problem, El Toro Marine Base. Boo! Oh, so much sound I cannot tell you. They are all training, El Toro Marine Base, all the pilots, all the planes would fly over our monastery. That was the only problem. So, as you come, you paved road, you see, which is gravels, dust. It is Michael Berry gave money. So water, we had a well there below. That water we used to bring here, pump water. Then came county water. It was Bird Depry, our president, had an agreement with the city that we shall give our that upper land so that people can go there and the cattle can drink water. So we got the free connection from the road to monastery. Lot of money we saved. And we had some grazing field there. We used to give $4,000 or $5,000 we used to get. And water crisis. Luckily, but do you know what? There is a tank there. We can save 22,000 gallons of water all the time able to keep there. Fire hazard, so that the firefighters can get water. There we used to play aqua ball. The monks with that we used to play. We had fun in Trabuco. We used to play badminton, baseball, all the Tatatmananda Ashim that we used to all play together. She was no problem. From El Toro, 2-lane road. Now you come, and both sides, orange grove. I used to keep my window open so that I can get the beautiful fragrance of the orange blossoms. It was heaven, this place. Now came, look, building after building, construction. Then what happened? 1973-74. Trabuco Monastery, tax was $500. In 74, it became $14,500. Orange County, blooming. So we cannot afford it, we went to the city, or county. Easement, agricultural reserve. The other side is O'Neill Park. We told them we shall give you 250 acres, and we shall keep 50 acres. This 250 acres, you can hiking, bridal trail, and all those things you can do. But this 50 acres free from tax. But our brothers built Shrine Trail. There you will find Islam, Panchavati, Christian, Jesus, then Jewish, then Buddhist, then Vedanta, and then American Indian. Our brothers built all these beautiful shrines. So that, do you know, the rule is, if there is a public access, no tax. That is the reason we arranged this beautiful shrine trail. We can see it. Then what happened? That was a funny story I shall tell you. We are building Santa Hollywood Convent. We needed money. When we entered, there in very entrance, the Live Oak Canyon Road, 13 acres land are there, ours. Now, county wanted with 13 acres to buy from us, $67,000, so that they can connect with the O'Neill Park. overnight camping, all those things they wanted to do there. Thus, some of Santa Barbara's, I still remember Ananda Purana told me, Swami, we need money, we need in the convent construction. Then in the board meeting, Swami Prabhupada sanctioned, yes, we need money, we shall sell that property, $67,000. Michael Berry said, Swami, I shall give that money. But Kamji will take away property from Michael Berry for the public. So we are in deep trouble. Then I was in Santa Barbara. Oshim called me, Swami, Wednesday is the board meeting. It will be passed. The land will go to this county. We do not want it. So I came to Hollywood and met Swami Prabhupada. Maharaj, I hear that you want to sell that property to the county. You gave 250 acres of land. And 13 acres you want to sell $67,000? Chittanta, we need money. Uncle Maharaj, if you open your lips, hundreds of $1,000 will come. And do you know what will happen? The overnight camping and all the bathrooms they will build, and these American girls, they are, when they come to the park and hiking and camping, they have very little dress. And your monks will go and see them. Do you want that? Immediately he said, is that so, Uncle? Yes. Then he said, Amahananda, the manager, put restriction, we shall not sell it. We shall give the 13 acres in the same condition with the county. So that this project, this place should be saved from the civilization. That is a story. Funny. This Trabuco, to me, my dreamland. Really, I gave a name, Maya Free Zone. Here, only 2 hours in the morning, 11 to 2, I think 10 to 12, and afternoon 3 to 5. No other visitors which are allowed. And I cannot tell you that how I feel about this land. And when I used to enter here, I used to say, goodbye civilization. And that shrine is very special. I call it Brahmapura. In Chandogya Upanishad, there is a mantra. Osti idam Brahmapure dharam punjari kaksham beshma dhavarasmin usmin akasha tusmin jatanta tad anishtebhya tad bijiggansitebhyo. In the human heart, there is a space. In that space, there is a lotus. In that lotus, what is there? That you should seek for. That is Brahman. So that shrine is my Brahmapura. Second thing I like Trabuco, library. Beautiful library. Many books. I'm a lover of books. That I liked. And then what I liked in Trabuco, as I told you that I recorded all my chants there, library, no pollution, climate, beautiful climate. Not too cold, not too hot. It's a Southern California, Trabuco climate is beautiful. Moreover, at night time, you can feel some spiritual current blows here. So many monks, devotees, they meditate and they pray. They create an atmosphere. As Swami Sarvadevana was telling, that to create an atmosphere is very, very important, so that you can come and imbibe it. We used to cook here. Tadatmananda's pancake was very famous, very thin, small. And Tadatmananda's studio. He's a fantastic artist. All those paintings you see, there's a statue, I remember when he was making, we went to San Bernardino to that person who made that bronze casting. I used to go with him. Swami, you approve, you check, you tell. I go, no, he's a really, really, really talented artist. We are very happy. Great monk, beautiful. Swami's statue. My routine here, I used to go from Hollywood, Sunday Evening I used to come here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoon I go to Hollywood, Friday morning, Santa Barbara, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning, Hollywood. In this way I used to commute 7 years. So it is a very dear place to me. Swami Prabhupada said, one day you will find from Los Angeles to San Diego, there will be continuous city. And Trabuco is in the middle. Trabuco had a great, great, great prosperity. As Swami Devananda was telling, people are looking for people here, Trabuco, we get so many people. Trabuco has a great future. Trabuco really is, as I said, it is a land of my dream. What else I shall tell about Trabuco? I really, if anybody says, what do you want? Another thing, we had a plan that if any Swami wants to retire in our monks, we shall start training center in Trabuco. That retired old Swami will come and young brahmacharis or devotees will come and he will train them. That was, we discussed about it sometimes. Anyhow. Anyhow, our many speakers are there. I shall not take much time, but I tell you frankly, Trabuco has a great, great future. It is a wonderful place. It is a spiritual, a vibrant place. And previously, all these trees are not there. Beautiful lawn, but water crisis, so they put these plants, and there was a persimmon tree, and here is a pomegranate tree. And some brothers used to take care of it. We need many monks here. Thank you very much. I pray to Sri Ramakrishna that this is the 75th anniversary of this monastery. As long as the sun and moon exist, let this Sri Ramakrishna's monastery continue and prosper. Thank you.
Our thanks to Swami Chaitanananda for a very beautiful and loving and sincere talk on the history of this place. And next up, we have our Swami Prapanananda. He is the head of the center in Sacramento. Very lucky to see him. I don't think I've seen him. He came for the vows, as I recall, back in 2008. So I haven't seen him for 16 years. And so I'm very glad to see him again. And he is going to talk about... See, most of the rest of the talks today are on monasticism. This is our only history talk because Swami Chaitanananda has such a long history with this place. But Swami Prapanananda is going to speak on monasticism in Buddhism, the concept of monasticism in Buddhism. Okay, thank you, Swami.
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृण्वाम देवः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्रः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः वशेम देवहितं जदायुः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. May we hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is beneficial. May we sing praises to the Lord and enjoy with strong limbs and body the life assigned to us by Him. Om, peace, peace, peace. The title of my talk that was given to me is The Concept of Monasticism in Buddhism. I gathered this information from definitely internet. To be frank, I never visited any Buddhist monastery. I do not have any association with a Buddhist monk. So since the responsibility came, so I have to take the help that everybody takes, I believe. Buddhist monasticism is one of the earliest surviving forms of organized monasticism and one of the fundamental institutions of Buddhism. Monks and nuns called bhikkhu and bhikkhuni are responsible for the preservation and dissemination of the Buddha's teaching and the guidance of Buddhist lay people. In the third Pitaka, that means there are three Pitakas in Buddhist scriptures. The third Pitaka, called Vinaya, governed the monastic life of Buddhist monasticism. Buddhism originated as a monastic tradition practiced by ascetics who had departed from lay life. According to Buddhist tradition, the order of monks and nuns was founded by Gautama Buddha during his lifetime between the 5th and 4th centuries before Christ, when he accepted a group of fellow renunciates as his followers. The Buddhist monastic lifestyle grew out of the lifestyle of earlier sects of wandering ascetics, some of whom the Buddha had studied under. You know, Buddha left the home and had the two Alama Kalama and such other well-known teachers were there, but he was not satisfied. Then he tried himself to have realization. This lifestyle was not necessarily living in seclusion. The community of monastics was dependent on the lay community for basic provisions of food and clothing, and in turn, Sangha members helped guide lay followers on the path of religious practices. Individuals or small groups of monks, a teacher and his students, or several monks traveled together, living on the outskirts of local communities and practicing meditation in seclusion. Monks and nuns were expected to live with a minimum possessions which were to be voluntarily provided by the lay community. Lay followers also provided the daily food that monks required and provided shelter for monks when they were needed. During the Buddha's time, retreats and gardens were donated by wealthy citizens for monks and nuns to stay in during the rainy season. Out of this grew two kinds of living arrangements for monastics. Avasho, a temporary house for monastics called vihara, and aramo, a more permanent and more comfortable arrangement than the avasho. This property was generally donated. The last one was donated and maintained by a wealthy follower. One example is that Lord Buddha had one devotee, Anantapindaka. So he had a very beautiful garden house, which is known as Prince Jetha Grove. After the parinirvana of Buddha, after his passing away, the Buddhist monastic order developed into a community movement. The practice of living communally during the rainy season prescribed by the Buddha gradually grew to encompass a settled monastic life centered on life in a community of practitioners. Most of the disciplinary rules followed by monks and nuns relate to proper methods for living and relating in a community of monks or nuns. Monasteries grew considerably after Buddha's death in places like Rajagriha. Incidentally, I had the opportunity of seeing this place, but in a rundown condition. It is archaeological place now. Monasteries grew considerably after the Buddha's death in places like Rajagriha, and the eventual development of large monastic universities in northern India that housed the thousands of resident monks. In the medieval era, organized Buddhist monasticism inside India declined. Monastic life. Buddhism has no central authority, and many different varieties of practice and philosophy have developed over its history. The collection of Buddha's rules and disciplines of monks and nuns, known as Vinaya Pitaka, governed monastic life in different regions and lineages. Monks and nuns are expected to fulfill a variety of roles in the Buddhist community. First and foremost, they are expected to preserve the doctrine and discipline of Buddhism. They are also expected to provide a living example for the laity and to serve as a, in quote, field of merit for lay followers, providing laymen and women with the opportunity to earn merit by giving gifts and support to the monks. In return for the support of the laity, monks and nuns are expected to live an austere life focused on the study of Buddhistic doctrine, the practice of meditation, and the observance of good moral character. The relative degree of emphasis on meditation or study has often been debated in the Buddhist community. Many continue to keep a relationship with their original families. Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni assemblies. Although his followers initially consisted only of men, the Buddha recognized women as followers after his stepmother, Mahaprajapati, asked for and received permission to live as an ordained practitioner. The Buddha's disciple and also his cousin, Ananda, strongly insisted on including female order. Ordination of bhikkhuni exists among the East Asian communities even now. Stages of monastic ordination. Ordination traditionally is a two-stage process. A bhikkhu or bhikkhuni first ordains as samanera, novice, residing in the monastery and learning about monastic life. They may then undergo upasampada, higher ordination, which confers full monastic status and obligation. Male novices may be ordained at a very young age as a samaneras and live according to the precepts, but are not responsible for living by the full set of monastic rules. There are no requirements for the length of ordination as a samanera. In Southeast Asia, novitiates may be as short as a few weeks, and temporary ordination for a period of weeks or months is quite common. Higher ordination, upasampada, conferring the status of a full bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, is given to those 20 or older. Higher ordination must take place before a quorum of monastics, with 5 being an allowable minimum and 10 suggested for ordinary circumstances. Those who have undergone higher ordination are required to follow a large number of additional rules known as pratimoksha that govern their behavior, dress, and decorum. The number of rules varies according to traditions. Nuns observe additional rules, some of which formally subordinate them to male monastics. Regional traditions differ to whether higher ordination is a permanent change in status, barring violations of the monastic rules, or if ordination vows can be temporarily or permanently rescinded. In Burma, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, there is sometimes short-term monastic ordination available to lay Buddhists to take some vows for a week up to a month. In Thailand, such arrangements are currently available for males only. Customs regarding other aspects of higher ordination also vary between countries. Early differences in the interpretation or ordination practices and monastic rules, combined with geographical differences, may have resulted in the development of the various early Buddhist schools out of ordination lineages known as Nyokas. Now, rules and precepts. The disciplinary regulations for monks and nuns are intended to create a life that is simple and focused, rather than one of deprivation or severe asceticism. Celibacy is of primary importance in monastic discipline, seen as being the preeminent factor in separating the life of a monastic from that of a householder. Depending on the tradition and strictness of observation, monastics may eat only one meal a day, provided either by direct donations of food from lay supporters or from a monastery kitchen that is stocked and possibly stuffed by lay supporters. Some schools of Buddhist monastics are not required to live a life of obedience to a superior. However, it is expected that monastics will offer respect to senior members of the Sangha. Seniority is based on the number of rain retreats, which is called vasas, that one has attended. The Buddha did not appoint a successor, nor did he specify rules mandating obedience in the monastic code. Individual groups of monastics are expected to make decisions collectively through regular gatherings of the community, at which decisions regarding violations of monastic rules and the dispositions of communal property are to be made. Individual relationship of teacher-student, individual relationships of teacher and student, senior or junior, and preceptor and trainee may be observed among groups of monastics, but there is no formal positions, nor is there any authority to give orders or comments invested in senior monks. An abbot, typically a senior monastic still active, is usually responsible for the day-to-day administration of the monastery and may be appointed others to assist with the work. In some traditions, the abbot is chosen by a vote of the monastics in a monastery. In other traditions, especially in Thailand, the abbot is chosen by the lay community. Namo Namo Buddha Divakaraya, Namo Namo Gautama Chandrikaya, Namo Namo Ananta Gunaya, Namo Namo Shakyanandaya. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Swami, for a very informative talk on Buddhism. It sounds like there's a lot of different kinds of Buddhist monastic communities. We have at least one or two things in common with some of them. Our next speaker is one of the nuns in Santa Barbara. She is Vrajaprana, and she's been living in that convent for many, many years. I think probably most of you know her name through her book. We sell Vedanta, A Simple Introduction in the bookstore, and her name is right there. So you've probably some of you have read the book. I know it's a popular one, and so you've at least seen the name in print. And now here's the person that wrote it, Vrajaprana from Santa Barbara. Thank you very much.
Good morning. It's really nice to be here, and what an honor to be here, the 75th anniversary. All right, yeah. Arupeshananda, I was there at that airport. A lot of us were there at that airport when Swami Chaitananda came off that plane, and my goodness, he seemed so boyish and so enthusiastic, and that has not changed at all. Boyish, filled with enthusiasm and life and love. And
88 years old.
yeah, yeah, since I was a girl. So, why monasticism? You know, when you're in the West and you decide to join a monastery or a convent, you get a lot of blowback. Why would anyone give up a career, a family, a relationship? Why would anyone give up their independence, which is absolutely sacred to Americans? Nothing is more important to us than our independence. And why would anyone opt for the choice of monasticism? Because giving up your independence is really tough. Living in a community is really tough. Living with people you would actually never choose to live with. And adjusting to routines you may not like. Right. Living in a situation where you just don't walk out at 5 o'clock and say bye. Living in a community where you don't say, have a great weekend. Oh, no. It's 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ideally for the rest of your life. That may be why Border Prana told me years ago, when she was alive, she said, you know, the first 50 years of monastic life is the hardest. And I laughed. I thought she was kidding. She wasn't. She'd no sign of a smile. It was just, out of pure compassion, she was explaining this to me. And, she joined the convent in 1944, and she died in 2014, so that's 70 years of monastic life. So she knew actually what she was talking about. I'm looking forward to that 50 years being over. Because it actually isn't an easy road, and believe me, in the West, it's not a frequent lifestyle choice. We don't have a lot of people, I want to be a monastic. Swami Swahananda always used to tell us that we monastics had prestige. And we would argue with him. He'd say, maybe in India, but believe me, not over here. Because parents, family, friends, acquaintances, people you barely know, even have big opinions on your decision to join a convent or a monastery. Everybody basically freaks out when they find out you're planning on becoming a nun or a monk. Your parents wonder what they did wrong. They wonder what you did wrong. 4 or 5 years after I joined, my brother called me up at like midnight and said, did you join the convent because I beat you up? It's like, no. Got a bad. People ask you with a little too much compassion in their voice, were you unlucky in love? It's like, baby, you have no idea. Shall we talk about love? Let's do that. People wonder if you're suffering some sort of a mental breakdown that they couldn't quite see. Or they think you can't face the world and so you're escaping from it. As if you ever escape the world in any convent or monastery I've been in. It's like, because you know what? The world is here. It's right here. It's right here. And we carry that sucker with us wherever we go. So no matter what door of a convent or monastery you walk in, you're taking the world right with you. So we get a lot of questions, pity, consternations, hand-wringing, but we don't get a lot of prestige, I promise you. And you know what? That's good. It's really superb. Because to become a monastic in the West, you have to want God, and God alone. Self-realization and self-realization alone, because that alone is going to carry you through. None of this prestige stuff. Davy Prana's Aunt Marion once came to visit. Now, Aunt Marion was a very no-nonsense, very down-to-earth, practical woman, and she was totally baffled by Davy Prana's decision to become a nun. And Aunt Marion said, a little religion is okay, but you don't want to make it your life. Well, that's where the difference lies. Because for some of us, there's really no choice. We have to make it our life because it is our life. And it's the only thing that makes sense to us, this life. Swami Asheshananda in Portland used to bring us to the fish hatchery for us to see with our own eyes the salmon literally swimming upstream. And he said to us, this is monastic life. This is what you have to do. You have to swim upstream. And that's why we need monasteries and convents. So we can support one another, so we can watch over one another, so we can have someone to talk to in ways that make sense, that only other monastics or close devotees it will make sense to. Because to other people out there, it doesn't make sense. You don't want to make it your life, do it on a Saturday, Sunday, something, not then. That's why monasticism in the West really goes against the current of society. And that's why Thomas Merton said that to become a monastic was the ultimate act of rebellion. The monk or the nun is the absolute ultimate rebel. Because everything out there, it's not enough. None of that stuff you throw at me, like Nachiketa, it's not enough. None of it. And when you can't get anything out there, we're simply forced to turn within. That's where we got to go. And then if we're incredibly fortunate, we encounter those spiritual luminaries, and they change our lives. We discover the spiritual teachers at the Vedanta Society. We discover the spiritual teachers, the Ramakrishna Order, and then real life begins for us. That's when our life begins. Because what we can never take for granted, ever, is how incredibly blessed and fortunate we all are to be this close to the incarnation of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sarda Devi, Swamiji, Maharaj, all the direct disciples, how close we are to that incarnation. We are so fortunate to be sitting right here. We are so fortunate to have each other's company. This is so rare. How many gazillions of lifetimes do we have to be in this room right now? We should never take that for granted. We have known people, we've talked to people who have been disciples of Sri Sarda Devi, who are disciples, direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And they tell us how Holy Mother looked, how she was in Jairambati, how she was in Kolkata. And those memories stay with us. And what the direct disciples were like, and what the direct disciples said about what Sri Ramakrishna looked like, what he was like when he sang, when he danced. We've heard that from their lips directly. What grace do we have? It's an incredible grace. And that empowers all of us. That this tradition goes through the Guru Parampara, through the mantra, through the order, through the oral tradition of things that have yet to be published, Swami Chaitanananda. And this is incredible grace, and we should never forget to be incredibly grateful for it, because this gives us all a lot of strength, and it gives us ideals to work toward, and it gives us a lot of faith. And that faith becomes even strengthened when it becomes part of our experience. And we have other great souls who tell us their experience, and we go, yes, yes, yes. Monasticism can actually be appealing for Americans, because monasticism really is all about freedom. And when you talk about freedom to Americans, you get everybody, it gets quiet in the room. It's freedom, freedom. It's American catnip. You talk to Americans about freedom, and you get something right into here. You're talking about our lifeblood. Now, of course, the problem is that for most Americans, freedom was, I'm going to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, and the way I'm going to do it, because I'm an American and I'm free. If you don't like it, I'm going to shoot you. Because I'm an American and I'm free. Well, of course, that kind of freedom is just another type of bondage. Real freedom, which we figure out later if we're lucky, is not being trapped by our own relentless desires, by our own desires of the bloated ego to get more bloated, and our Americans' endless fear of missing out. The FOMO thing. It's just another bit of cultural baggage that's yet another form of destructive bondage. Now, some people figure that out. And when we figure it out, when we hear Swamiji say, thine only is the rope that holds thee, thine is the rope that drags thee on, it's like we go, yeah, I get it. I get it. That's exactly what it is. Americans yearn for freedom, but we put that noose around our neck and then we drag it. It's like we get it, We get it. We noose ourselves up with a rope of desires and a repeated disappointment with how incredibly boring it is once they're fulfilled. And then we go on and do it all over again because we look for freedom out there instead of in here. As Swamiji says, he conquers all who conquers self. Know this and never yield, sannyas and bold say Om, Tat Sat Om. Spiritual freedom is the highest form of freedom. Why wouldn't every American want to go there, right? It's like, let's really talk about freedom. And that's why spiritual freedom is stuck right there in the middle of the Ramakrishna order. Atmano mokshartam jagadhitayacha. Yeah, now you're talking. And that's actually perfect for Americans because it's both spiritual realization and service. Because Americans are extremely active by nature, and when we're young, we're super idealistic. Nobody who is super idealistic is going to want a life that's all about, making themselves happy all the time without thinking about the welfare of others. A self-centered life doesn't really cut it if you're idealistic. So our goal is attaining God realization for ourselves, service to others. Now, often the problem is that as American, we think that if we're giving service, real seva, it ought to be something newsworthy. It ought to show up on it's like, who's suffering from plague that I can help you? Did we have a hurricane that I can build your house? And we don't really think about the boring stuff as being service, but it is. Maybe real service is actually doing the accounts on time. Service is actually cleaning the temple or the shrine and having a welcoming place for people to come and to be inspired, getting ourselves out of the way. Real service is answering the phone. It's just answering the phone and making ourselves available when we actually had plans to do something else, or having that conversation with a person right then because they feel they can tell you that something that they can't tell anybody else. But they really need to talk to you about it. Making a place welcoming and beautiful and warm and loving, that's seva. It's not going to make the evening news. No one's going to pay any attention to it, and no one's going to think you actually helped somebody. But that's what real seva is. Showing up, that's service, that's seva. But without a strong spiritual background, the problem is that we can think our little bits of seva can take center stage, and then we think, oh man, did you appreciate what I just did to you? But I did for you. I actually spent my time and talked to you. I don't have time for you. So the ego wants to take center stage and think about how great it was that I gave that service. And on the other hand, our incredibly desire to spend so much time in deep meditation, where we become so self-absorbed that we don't want to change our precious meditation time or our precious routine, because we come before anyone else's needs, as important and just as important as our stuff is. So that just don't disturb my meditation is yet another form of bloating the ego. My spiritual life is so much more important than what your needs are. Monastics, that's the big problem with monastics. We can become very selfish and self-absorbed because everything out there is taken care of. So we want to just make it plush and cushy. No. The goal of the Ramakrishna order is a balanced life. The two wings of the bird, seva and moksha. And that's why we need to balance each other. And that's the ideal of monastic life. No matter what anybody says, whether a monastic receives prestige or praise from others is really neither here or there. But if we allow it to insinuate itself into our consciousness, it becomes a big spiritual obstacle. So, we've got enough spiritual obstacles, we don't need any more. But what is really important, though, is for every monastic to have, rather than prestige or praise, to have great respect for themselves. Great respect for themselves and for the path that they've chosen. And a great sense of one's own dignity and the incredible dignity of this path that we've chosen. And the dignity of the purpose of life that we've chosen. The monastic path demands great respect because it's a high bar. It's a high bar. And we have to keep our eyes on the prize, or else we can go off it in a second. We have to remember, I have given my life for a higher ideal and have great respect for that ideal. That demands our respect, not praise or prestige. And it's important for non-monastics as well. Monastic and non-monastic. We have every right to be proud of our spiritual lineage, which is impeccable. We have every right to be proud of the fact that we are children of Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Sarda Devi. And that allows us to stand strong and tall. Our spiritual lineage is impeccable. We stand on the shoulders of giants and giants and giants. I also would like to say that the monastic ideal applies both to monastics and non-monastics. You know, sometimes we come into householder devotees who feel that they're kind of like lesser than. You know, if I'd only been a nun or a monk, I could have had a fabulous spiritual life. But I failed. I didn't do it. I found out too late. Like they're spiritually second-class citizens. And that's completely wrong, folks, wrong. You know, it's M, the recorder of the gospel, kind of went through that himself. He felt so bad that he hadn't become, what, is it too late? Is it too late? So finally he asked Sri Ramakrishna. He said, what determines who becomes a monk and who becomes a householder? And Sri Ramakrishna simply replied, the will of the mother. Oh, okay, not necessarily more renunciation, not necessarily more devotion, not necessarily more sterling spiritual qualities. It's the will of the mother. Supreme Court has thus declared it's over. That is what the mother has determined. Because, and it's important to keep in mind for every sincere spiritual aspirant, all of us have to renounce. Some people do it inwardly, some people do it outwardly. But it's all going to go away, baby. All this stuff's going to go away. We all have to renounce. Monastics renounce outwardly. You know, we get the vows. We get to wear the colors. So I got to tell you, folks, in America, they think we have an obsession with Halloween. Seriously, if all of us go out and wear this color, you stop by Starbucks, you start getting, you guys are into Halloween, aren't you? Yeah, it's great. We all love Halloween. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not kidding. It's all about Halloween. A householder has to do all that inwardly. It's harder. It's harder to do it inwardly. You know, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna talks about two types of yogis. There is the Vyakta yogis, or if I'm Bengali, Bhakta yogis. And then there's the Gupta yogis. The ones who are obvious, yeah, we do that. It's obvious if you have a lot of people who know what you're doing. The Gupta yogis have to renounce inwardly, and it's a tougher fight, uphill battle. Both paths are equally great. Both paths are equally steep. And both paths are determined by the mother's will. She has thus ordained. Now, when we're young, we all have the idea of, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to change the world. I've got it. I know what's needed. I know what's right. I'm going to change the world. And after a while, we keep throwing ourselves after the world, throwing ourselves at it. And then guess what? The world doesn't change. That's it. You know, you're like one of those bugs on the windshield. You get tired after a while. And then after a while, we realize we can't change the world. But you know, we got a fighting chance of changing ourselves. And that's what it's all about. Whether you're a householder or a monastic, we all have a fighting chance of changing ourselves from the inside out. So why be a monastic? Well, because we have been given by the incredible grace of the Divine Mother and by the grace and the generosity, of our householder devotees who have given us this opportunity to allow us to have the place and the time and the resources to devote ourselves to realizing God, which is the goal of life. The grace of the Divine Mother and the grace of the householder devotees who have allowed us to be given the time, the opportunity, the space, the resources, the properties to be able to devote ourselves entirely to God. And we can't take that for granted either. Your generosity has allowed us to be here, to live every these places to be here, to allow us to live a life of dedication and renunciation. That's grace. To attain the highest goal of life, that's why you become a monastic. whether it's inward, whether it's Vyakta or it's Gupta. That's the point. We have been so blessed to have been given refuge by Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sardadevi, Swamiji, Maharaj, and all the direct disciples. So blessed to have had the company of holy souls who've inspired us, who have given us direction and guidance and a whole lot of patience and a whole lot of love. That's been a grace for us. And they have shown us with their lives the value of monastic life. As Swami Prabhavananda used to say, it works, my child. It works. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for a inspirational and entertaining talk on monasticism. And in case we have a bunch of influx of applicants, we can put a sign-up sheet out there by the coffee. But there is an age limit, just so you know. But now, seriously, is time for our break. We get 10 minutes, hopefully. I'll ring the bell when it's over. There's caffeine and carbohydrates outside the door here, so you can fuel up for the second half. Thank you all very much. It's been very wonderful and inspirational so far, and it's going to continue after some coffee. Thank you. Okay, can we all come in and sit? We're ready to start the second half of the festivities here. First, I'd like to thank Devahuti and David for the beautiful music we had at the intermission. Thank you very much. And now we're going to begin the second half of our celebration of the 75th anniversary with Swami Tatwamayananda. He is from San Francisco Monastery, and he is in charge there, of course. He is an expert in Sanskrit. Was T.C. Acharya, that is the trainer, the teacher of the monks in the training center in Bellarmine for 2 years. He came to this country in 2012. Did I get that wrong? 7 years? 7 years, not 2 years. 7 years. He came to this country in 2012. He came here to Trabuco. I think that was 2014. We invited him to give a retreat, so some of you probably remember that because you were here. I see some familiar faces who were here back then. And then after the retreat was over, I decided to take Swami Tatwamayananda to Disneyland. He was just fresh off the plane at that point, and it was all very new to him. I thought Disneyland would be something fun for him to see. And so I decided the very first thing I was going to do was take him on the fastest roller coaster that they had. Space Mountain, for those of you who know. I took Swami Tatwamayananda on Space Mountain as soon as we got in the park. I thought we're going to find out where he stands on this roller coaster issue. Does he love this or does he hate it? So we go through the whole roller coaster, and it's, as you know, it's very violent, and it jars your head around and all that. We get off, and I turned to Swami and I said, "So, Maharaj, what did you think about Space Mountain?" And of course, Swami's very nice. He doesn't want to say anything negative. We're not supposed to find fault. This is one of the traditions that we have. And as monastics, we're not supposed to say negative things or think negative thoughts. So I asked him this question: what did you think about Space Mountain? And he says, "Well, it was pretty good, but I don't ever want to do that again." And so I got the points, and he managed to do it without saying anything negative. So please welcome Swami Tatwamayananda, who's going to speak on the Catholic tradition of monasticism.
My pranams to Sarvadevananda ji, Prabhanananda ji, and all other monks. And unfortunately, Chetanand ji had to leave earlier. So, all the monks, nuns, pravarjikas, devotees, everyone. Now, it's something very interesting, I am, in a way, sorry that I could not recognize Swami Arupeshanandaji when I first met him after so many years, almost 10 years, because he seems to have changed a lot. So finally, I recognized that he was Swami Arupeshanandaji himself. So, very happy to meet you again. Now, the subject given to me is something very interesting. Maybe the only justification for me to speak on this subject is that I happen to be from a place which had greeted one of the disciples of Jesus Christ, Saint Thomas, who is supposed to have arrived in the southwest of India, Kerala, in the year 51 AD. Just 3 years before the second Jewish migration took place, 54 AD. And that place happens to be a very interesting place. So, in fact, the Hindu Maharajas are supposed to have greeted the early Christians when the Roman emperors were throwing the early Christians to the lions in the cages to make wonderful breakfast of. So, when these early Christians came, Hindu Maharajas greeted them and handed over to them a few temples which they converted into churches. And this is a legend, but historically speaking, you can still find churches going back to 2nd century AD. And for your information, those who are interested, they are called Syrian Christians. And it seems that they do have a church in St. Anna. You can find out. And we tried to get one of them to come to Ulima Memorial Day, for interfaith program, but they normally don't go out. They are so non-evangelical and almost like a recluse. They are Hindus by culture, that's how they claim, Christians by faith. And of course, they are staunch believers, totally different from the hyperactive, over-dynamic evangelicals of modern times. So nothing more need to be said about it. But what is interesting to me is that whenever I read a history of Christian monasticism, what I find is they always begin the first chapter by asserting that the first monk in the history of human civilization was Paulus the Hermit, or of course Saint Anthony of the Desert Fathers tradition. But actually, you'll be surprised, many of the mantras that were uttered for the sannyasa ceremony in Hollywood's vows ceremony are actually found in 3 Upanishads: Vajrasuchika Upanishad, Paramahamsa Upanishad, Narada Parivrajaka Upanishad. So these 3 Upanishads contain all the mantras, surprisingly including the pressure mantras for information. You can still, they are still available in printed form. Vajrasuchika Upanishad, Narada Parivrajaka Upanishad, and of course it's a slightly different name they use in different versions. What I mean to say, there were monks in ancient India, even during Vedic times. Even the Bhagavata Purana, the original text of Bhagavata Purana goes back to 3rd millennium. The latest version of the text goes back to about 9th century. So Shuka, for example, he was a great monk. Then so many Yajnavalkya took to monasticism from the status of an householder in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. You find so many monks and so many wandering preachers in the Vedic, in the Puranic and the Upanishad literature. So many. And then again, but coming back to Christianity. When I first read the life of one very interesting monk, he belongs to Franciscan order, when Dominicans and Franciscans, they were formed in about 1209, 1206, around those times, 3 years difference. So one of the most interesting characters that I like in Christian mystical tradition is actually this great man, and he was a Franciscan. His name is Saint Joseph of Cupertino. He was born in Italy, and sometimes, he is sometimes called a reluctant monk. He didn't want to be a monk. He was a dullard, illiterate, didn't want to be a monk, but his mother forced him to become a monk, and he was given a very ordinary work. He was asked to take care of the cows and cattle and goats, which he liked very much. But seeing his devotion and dedication, one of the superior abbots, actually a bishop, happened to visit the Franciscan monastery and asked him some questions, and then he replied he liked the place and liked the job he was doing. Then he said he is the right follower of St. Francis, and you will have many cattle, many animals, you'll be a wonderful shepherd, you'll have many animals to take care of in future. Now the point is, and then he referred to that interesting parable in the New Testament, that is, when you leave one goat after 100, then you leave all the 99 behind and you go after the one that is lost. So this he memorized. He went back, asked somebody to explain to him this parable, and he memorized. Later on, against his own wishes, he was asked to continue, and he studied the priestcraft, and then he was in examination. In that examination, his own tutor failed, but he went for the examination, for the test, and the archbishop who was examining him asked him one question: can you repeat the parable? It's the same parable, which he repeated. And that is the only parable he had studied, he had heard about, he had memorized. So what happened, he is the patron saint of students appearing for examinations. and later on, he could fly. In fact, because of his intense devotion, he reached a very high, an exalted state of devotional ecstasy. He could actually fly. So he also became the patron saint of pilots. And another very interesting Christian saint whom I like very much, I'm a very conservative person, slightly on the conservative side, coming from a very ancient family. We had to memorize the Vedas right from 5th year up to 18th year, and at the same time going to schools, a school where we are not allowed to speak in the vernacular, the mother language. We have to speak only in English, otherwise we have to pay fine. Now the point is, what I mean to say, another very interesting figure, this doesn't belong to the Catholic tradition, belongs to the Russian Orthodox tradition. The way of a pilgrim, and the pilgrim continues his journey. If you ever want to get a very intimate picture of a true devotee of Christ in the Christian tradition, there is no better book than this small little book. It's an autobiography of a Russian peasant who was nearly uneducated, but somehow read little and write in his own gross handwriting. He was Russian in the mid-19th century. This man happened to visit a Russian Orthodox church, and there the preacher was referring to the first epistle of St. Paul, in which he talks about the mystery of remaining in a perpetual state of natural prayerfulness. How do you remain in a state of prayerfulness without any effort? In Hindu tradition, ayatna lalita means without any effort, but spontaneous and natural. So this humble peasant was listening to a sermon on this in the first episode, St. Paul. And then the preacher, the priest who was delivering the sermon may not have bothered much about what he was talking about. But the peasant took it differently. He wanted to get somebody who can teach him how to remain in a state of perpetual prayerfulness. And invent the search of somebody. Finally, he met a monk, and the monk took him to a Russian Orthodox monastery and taught him, and he finally learned how to remain without any effort in a state of natural, spontaneous prayerfulness. And when he learned it, he could not keep his mind away from this state of prayerfulness. And when I read Mr. French, R.M. French, the translator of this Russian, it's autobiographical writings. It was found in Mount Athos in Greece in manuscript form, which was translated into English by several translators. One of the finest translations is Mr. R.M. French, if that's the name of the person, not language. Now, and this man, later on, when he learned this, he said he could see Christ everywhere. If you read a description of his own mystical experience, when he reached the state of natural prayerfulness, you compare it with Prahlada's story in the Bhagavata Purana, which Guru Maharaj refers to. Ramakrishna was watching a drama by Girichandra Ghosh on the life of Prahlada. And Sri Ramakrishna went to Samadhi. When Prahlada, the actor, appeared on the stage, Prahlada could not forget the holy name of Lord Vishnu. Sometimes he will cry because Vishnu had gone away. Sometimes he will weep out of joy because Vishnu was appearing before him. You can find very, very identical lines in the English translation in The Way of a Pilgrim, which is followed by The Pilgrim Continues His Journey. And another great name in Christian mystical tradition that I like is Meister Eckhart. Please don't, if you go to Google, you may find another Eckhart. But I'm talking about Meister Eckhart. Please don't confuse with any other name which has got Eckhart as part of it. So Meister Eckhart was a great German theologian, a Dominican, who actually explained maybe the most exalted dimension of Christian mystical tradition. Maybe it's a monastic tradition also. He says, even to define God as God is only an approximation. Every definition is an approximation. So in fact, surprisingly, you find Eckhart lived in 13th century Germany. He wrote in Old German, and Shankaracharya lived in 8th century India. You find in Eckhart, surprisingly, almost verbal translations of Shankara's commentary. Vacham agocharatvat. The Godhead, the Supreme Being, is beyond the reach of mind and words. You can find it. So even in the Vedanta, in Advaita tradition, you cannot explain anything in words. To try to explain something in words is an imperfection. It is a blasphemy because you are trying to contain something which cannot really be contained. Antai Behuvadinam Anantai Mokham is one of the mantras that you hear after Durga Puja. It comes in the Atharvaveda and Yajurveda also. The language of the infinite is silence. The language of the finite is verbosity. So in the Advaita tradition, there is this interesting thing. Pancha Shabda Pravritti Nishedha means transcending all possible verbalizations. When you want to explain something, you want to explain in terms of its connection, relationship, qualities, characteristics, or you have to compare with somebody, It is called, for example, you can say it's like sun. Sun is well known. So Sota Pratyaksha is well known. Or it's like there's a blue color. Blueness is a quality. He is my father, my brother. It's a relationship. You can even jadi, drevya, guna, sambandha, etc. Eckhart says the same thing. The absolute reality cannot be explained. It's beyond characteristics. And for that, he nearly lost his head, Eckhart, because he was a Dominican priest. And he was actually, he had to face a verdict. He was with a test, a trial presided over by a Franciscan priest. He was finally asked to go to Rome. He disappeared. There are different versions about what happened to him. And that's a different story. So you find in Catholic tradition, and also even in the Russian Orthodox tradition, very wonderful, great men and also women. You cannot forget, you cannot talk about Christian mystical tradition without talking about Saint Teresa of Avila. So that's also one of the most profound meditative tradition, going deeper and deeper in a castle. You can find Saint Teresa Avila's definitions of love for Jesus is almost like you quoting Chandilya Bhakti Sutras and Narada Bhakti Sutras. Sadhu asmin parama prema rupa means it's of the nature of the supreme love for the Lord. All that you find in Saint Teresa of Avila. So what I mean to say, all these, when you read, what you really find, all attempts to practice mysticism, every attempt to be a monk or a nun is an attempt to break through the barriers of the book of the place of worship, and also the particular different definition of God, rather to get an immediate communion, intimate understanding of what you are meditating upon, what you are worshipping. And that's this urge for the real, I call aparokshanubhuti, the urge for the immediate experience, direct experience, not through a priest or not through any of the intermediary, not through a book, but to make God a reality every moment of our life, every day, so that every thought becomes a meditation, every word becomes a sacred hymn or a mantra, as you call it, and every movement becomes a pilgrimage, and whole life becomes spiritualized when the secular merges with the spiritual. That is the goal of monasticism. So when you find, for example, in the Benedictine tradition, when they have these important vows, you call stability, which means and again conversion and humility. You should have proper intimate understanding with the congregation, with commitment to other members of the same congregation, and also conversion. Every day, every minute, you are taking 1 inch forward towards God. So every act, every word, every thought is one little step to the supreme goal. Actually, it's very similar to Advaitic tradition or Vedantic tradition, where you do everything with total detachment. Just as you place a flower at the feet of the Lord, every word you speak, every thought you think, and every activity at the physical level, the mental level, intellectual level, is like a flower that you place at the feet of the Lord. Conversion. You can find striking similarities. And also humility, obedience, poverty, chastity, and obedience. When you read all these, surprisingly you find it's almost like the 6 disciplines. 5 of them yamas, that means ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, and also what Shankaracharya calls a 6th number. It calls samadhi sarka sampatti, titiksha. That is samadama uparadi shraddha tidiksha samadhanam. You self-restraint, restraining the senses of action, restraining the senses of perception, and then forbearance, and then contentment, and then thinking of every act as a sacred act, bringing an element of sanctity and sacredness to every word we speak, to every act we do, and every moment in our life. That will take us moment by moment towards the Supreme. You can find same parallels, yamas and niyamas, and the 6 disciplines, samadhi, sarka, sampatti, you find in the Benedictine tradition. If you just see the elaborations, the interpretations of the poverty, chastity, and obedience, it is nothing but a condensation of yamas and niyamas. Now, when you practice this, what happens is, then you break through the man-made structures and barriers. That's what a monk is supposed to do. In Hindu tradition, a monk need not go to a temple. There is no need for a monk to go to a temple. There is no need for a monk to worship a god. Nothing is compulsory, not mandatory. Nothing is mandatory. But a monk naturally does that. If you go to Sringeri Math, for example, So one of the Shankaracharya's march. There was a great Swami in Sringeri Math in the 1930s. He was supposed to be an Avadhuta type. But every day he was doing puja. And every day he was meditating. So what happens is, when you transcend all these man-made structures, then what happens, you come back, but then it's a natural habit. So one great intellectual came to Sringeri, they met the Shankaracharya. You are a Advait, then why are you doing puja all the time? They asked him, what else can I do? He cannot start a business. What will you do? When you reach the high, it's a professor who has gone through kindergarten, primary school, college, university, finally Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, and then becomes a world-known professor. He has to use the same alphabet that he memorized 60 years earlier in his kindergarten. You cannot drop the alphabet that you studied as a child, as a kid, when you become a world-learner professor. Similarly, a mystic or a monk will naturally do whatever he is supposed to do. That is, he had gone through all these paths and will be living in that world. So that's why very, very interesting discussion you find in the life of Saint Joseph of Cupertino. The bishop is asking him, are you happy taking care of these lambs and cattle? He said, nothing pleases me more than that. Even after he became a saint, after his sainthood was recognized, which doesn't happen very often, most of the great saints in Christian tradition, unfortunately, get only post-mortem recognition. Unfortunately. So, but what happened in his case, of course, he was recognized as a great saint. He was finally, of course, he was canonized maybe in 1730s, around that time. But I mean to say, this is universal. In Christian tradition, Catholic tradition, also Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition. When you urge for the real thing, with a real experience, when you want to make God a reality in your everyday life, then you break through all these barriers. And then you reach a state. And that is the real purpose of monasticism. In Christian tradition, the first attempt, what you call institutional attempt to establish a monastery, what was by Saint Benedict. It's called Benedictine order. It's a very contemplative order. It still survives. Then Dominican and Franciscan. Dominican order is still remembered mostly because of Meister Eckhart, who was buried, in the sense his teachings were practically banned for a long time in the Catholic Church. But later, you know what happened? Rudolf Otto gave him a new life in the 18th century, early 19th century. Rudolf Otto wrote about Meister Eckhart, and most of his writings were translated to English language. Then the Franciscan order, of course, you find it is associated with the great name Saint Francis of Assisi, who is an embodiment of love and compassion. Looking at the entire creation as an expression of his divine. His love for animals, for birds, all these are expressions of the natural state of a real monk who looks upon the entire creation as one spiritual family. There is no otherness in the life of a real monk or real mystic. Then, of course, there are other traditions. There are Cistercians are there, Trappists are there, and even the Carmelite order, which actually claims to, which tries to claim their beginning from the early Elijah, the Hebrew prophets. Though, of course, as an order, they came into existence only much later. So I'm trying to give just a simple bird view of the Catholic monastic tradition, perceived from the Hindu perspective, Vedantic perspective. What I mean to say is, the urge for becoming a monk, to renounce everything, it takes a lot of spiritual courage. And also it happens in Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition, it happens at one junction of your spiritual journey. You know, Hinduism, Buddhism, and before the Council of Nicaea, Christianity also believed in the law of karma and reincarnation. Reincarnation was put out and narrowly missed. So it is a funny story. You can read the history of the Council of Nicaea. Reincarnation was a natural belief system among the early Christians. The writings of Saint Anthony of the Desert, according to some interpreters, and also even the later writings of Saint Paul in the Neoplatonistic teachings of Porphyry and Philo and Neoplatonists, you find the doctrine of reincarnation and law of karma were accepted as a fact in pre-Augustinian Christian tradition. Augustine, of course, came with a huge hammer, you know, the doctrine of the radical sinfulness of man, which I don't think Christ would have recognized as his property. Anyway, whatever it is, so according to this theory in Buddhist and Hindu tradition, you get the spiritual courage to say no to this world, to the world of senses, only when you reach a point of evolution after several life cycles, as a result of constant spiritual disciplines that you practiced. In one life, you get discouraged that, well, this world is not for me. Your parents may not agree with you, as you know very well, and your near relatives may not be very, very amused by that. Even I heard some of the distant relatives of Holy Mother were not exactly very, very spiritual, as you know. And even one of the brothers of Swamiji was actually a radical humanist. He was very close to M.N. Roy. He was one of the writers of radical humanism in India. You know, was a great admirer. M.N. Roy was a great admirer of Joseph Stalin. Nothing more to be said about it. But his elder brother, Swami Vivekananda, is the champion of the greatest champion of modern times of Advaita philosophy, Vedanta philosophy. You can imagine. Many of the greatest monks of our time, modern age. What I mean to say, so it may not be found in your family, but every individual jiva, soul, is an independent pilgrim, a traveler. When he reaches a particular point, then you get this spiritual courage. Well, I don't want this world. You show your back to this world and you move forward in another direction. And this is true in all traditions, whether Christian, Buddhist, or Hindu traditions. So my understanding and also my interpretation of Catholic mysticism could be slightly different. I would have very much liked to hear about Catholic monasticism, one of our own monks or nuns who are born to Catholic faith. That would be much more appropriate. But anyway, the subject was given to me, so I am doing my best to do my duty. Thank you so much. It was not with my permission, but I'm happy and I'm obliged, I'm grateful for having got this opportunity to talk about this subject. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Swami, for a very informative talk and touching one of our favorite themes in Vedanta, which is the underlying harmony that we find behind all these traditions and the underlying urge we feel for spiritual growth that can be found in all these traditions. Thank you, Swami. And next up, we have our Pravajika Anantaprana. I have never met Pravajika Anantaprana. I understand that she comes from San Francisco and is in charge of the Sunday school there. So please welcome our Anantaprana.
Hi, I'm not actually in charge of the Sunday school. We have a triumvirate who takes care of the kids. We have the young kids, the middle-aged kids, and the teens. And I'm lucky to take care of the teens, so that's my but I'm not in charge. Just because they're older doesn't mean. So my topic is how Vedanta monasticism is acculturated to the West. And I can one-up Swami Prapanananda, because not only did I use the internet, I used ChatGPT. For some of my information. I got it from one of our teenagers who's, she introduced me to it about 6 months ago, and I'm having a wonderful time with it. Okay, and the thoughts I will present, by Vedanta monasticism, I mean the updated Hindu monasticism. Okay. Okay. I mean the Hindu monasticism that Swami Vivekananda evolved, because the original Hindu monasticism was not really practical in this country, in this culture. He had already introduced innovations in India, which made it better suited to Western culture. And then the Ramakrishna monks who came here after he left also maintained these innovations, and more innovations were evolved organically. One of the things he revived was the ashrama tradition, because for a long time it had just been Hindu ascetics wandering solo and freely. I mean, there were the Shankara mutts, and then of course the Buddhist mutts, but there weren't just a lot of Hindu mutts, and he revived that. So he wanted the monks to live settled in one place to help carry out Sri Ramakrishna's message of self-realization and to make service of humanity more efficient. And the lay devotees, after a few years of hardship for the monks, they began to support the monastery very well. Sri Sarada Devi was also instrumental in confirming Swamiji's choice to set up monasteries. She prayed to Sri Ramakrishna to keep her sons in one place where they would have their food provided, and for lay devotees who were seeking spiritual nourishment. The monastery then would serve as a refuge. In the late 1890s, here in New York, a young man attending the Vedanta talks in New York City faced this difficulty when he wanted to renounce the world. He studied the Vedanta philosophy and had met Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciples, Swami Abhedhananda and Turiyananda. He also met Swamiji briefly, and there were no provisions for wandering sadhus in this country. Individuals who would appear at the door asking for food would be considered tramps or unhoused, as we would say now. And they certainly wouldn't be able to follow their spiritual practices very easily, because who knows if they would be, chased away from, door frames. So that didn't work out. He was known as Gurudas Maharaj, and he had to choose between joining a Christian monastery because he wanted to renounce the world. But that would require testifying to certain beliefs. Or he could choose doing hard labor on a friend's farm. A friend had offered this possibility. And he was not physically suited for this, but he chose the hard work because he couldn't testify to the Catholic or the Christian creed. And then Minnie C. Book donated the acreage in the San Antone Valley, east of San Jose, to Swami Vivekananda. And that, as we know, is the Shanti Ashrama. So that young man became Swami Atulananda. He lived there for a long time, and then later in India. In time, the monasteries and convents set up in this country by the Vedanta Swamis began to follow the Sri Ramakrishna's order's pattern of having a settled place, so that young men and women who wished to live apart from society joined together under the direction of the Swamis and lived in communities of men or women supported by the devotees. However, close to 70% of North Americans are brought up by Christian parents. We Western monastics mostly fall into this category. In fact, I think in the San Francisco convent, we have like half, people who grew up Catholic. So that was their first exposure to monasticism, is seeing the monks and nuns in school. Or if you're brought up in a Catholic family, they're your school teachers. So we form an idea of monastic life by observing them. Kids observe their teachers very closely. You're sitting there, you're supposed to listen to them, so you observe everything about them. You know how they look, how they speak, how they move along the halls. We watch how they interact with their fellow nuns or monks, and we notice how they treat their students. We used to talk among ourselves. This was in the 1950s and 60s. And we were from Kentucky, and there the poor nuns were with all these layers of black cloth in that climate. It was terrible. Anyway, their lives were not enviable in that way. It all looked very bleak and boring. Some of the individual nun teachers were very tuned in to young people, and they had very lively personalities, they had wonderful skills, and they took genuine interest in the pupils. They encouraged our talents and had an uncanny power of restraining restless student behavior. I think usually you just see that in mothers, but these nuns could do it with a look. But being interested in their lifestyle and their choice of spiritual path was clouded by the circumscribed ideas. Christianity has a strong grip on its certitude. Christianity is the best and only choice for reaching God. That's the well-known conviction of most of its clerical leaders. The ecclesiastical line in Christianity is that all other choices are substandard, and those who choose them have to be brought round. This is discouraging to young developing minds and intellects. Many young people are naturally open-minded, since they haven't yet fully taken on the prejudices of their adults, their parents, and their relatives. And hearing that other people's beliefs are wrong and that are at best misguided, that's not uplifting and not encouraging. So it doesn't appeal to young people. And then you're told that a certain set of beliefs is mandatory. I asked my sisters, some of them are still practicing Catholics, if they still recite the creed in Sunday Mass, and two of them who go said yes, they still do that. And the Nicene Creed mostly covers faith in several tenets of Christianity: the Trinity, baptism, and heaven. So Guru Das Maharaj would have had to subscribe to that, and he embraced much wider concepts. So that's why he couldn't join a Catholic Christian monastery. On the other hand, Ramakrishna monasticism does not require acceptance of any dogma. Swami Vivekananda said, "But really speaking, sannyasins cannot belong to any religion, for theirs is a life of independent thought, which draws from all religions. Theirs are lives of realization, not merely of theory or belief, much less of dogma." So that's quite a contrast. And this is very appealing to the individualistic culture citizens here in the Western nations. Westerners, at least Americans, are socialized to be free and independent thinkers. Western society is comfortable with questioning authority. Western science is based on continual questioning of previous scientific conclusions, reflecting that approach of putting all so-called received wisdom to examination. A scientific conclusion is expected to be falsifiable. Western schools teach us to examine what we are learning and to make it our own by creative, original thinking. So a teacher like Swamiji set the standard for all other Vedanta teachers that followed. And that standard is, keep questioning. Is it the truth? Swami Lokeshwarananda wrote, Swamiji was a great believer in freedom of thought. He had practiced it himself all his life and wanted his brother monks to do the same. There was nothing they would accept on faith. They would not even mind questioning the existence of God. There was no organized system of belief, to which they were required to subscribe. Each was free to believe and act as he thought best, keeping two things in view: his own emancipation and service to mankind. The only thing the monastery would insist on was to accept Sri Ramakrishna as the model. This summing up by Swami Lokeshwarananda embodies the breath of fresh air that Vedanta monasticism brings to the West. No followers of Ramakrishna Vedanta, neither lay devotees nor monastic members, are required to follow any specific line of philosophical thinking, or even have any specific philosophy at all. A seeker may be from any religion, have any chosen ideal, or no chosen ideal at all. Atheists are also welcome in the order. Even in India, a majority Hindu country, the members joining the order are not all Hindu. What to speak of in the West, where Christians, Jews, and young men and women who are brought up with no religious training at all have been attracted to this order. What is required is adherence to monastic vows and disciplines, regardless of the individual's motivation for that. Another and similarly appealing aspect of Vedanta monasticism is the across-the-board approach to service. It's true that Christian monasticism also focuses on service to lay people, and they have for centuries. But in the case of Christian outreach, the people served are selected traditionally from the adherents of the same faith. It's different in the last few decades, but for centuries it was Catholics serve Catholics, Episcopalians serve Episcopalians, and so forth. In the Ramakrishna order, no such selection is made. This is central to Sri Ramakrishna's realization and Swamiji's interpretation expressed by Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. All the order's service activities are based on this realization that service to humanity is worship of God. All living beings, especially human beings, are forms of God. How can we question whether their faith, nationality, gender, age, social status, or occupation accords with ours? This is further bolstered by Sri Sarda Devi's well-known message that the whole world is our own. No one is a stranger. Speaking of Sri Sarda Devi, the Ramakrishna order has allowed and encouraged women to follow the path of sannyasa. In Indian culture, women were accorded the highest status as mothers in families. But Sri Ramakrishna accepted a woman sannyasini as one of his spiritual guides. And Swamiji wanted the women's order to be founded even before the men's order. Pravajaka Atmaprana of Sardamat writes, in the history of the monastic ideal followed by women, Hindus, Jains, Buddhists, and Christians, this is the first and only women's order which is absolutely independent of men's control in all matters, sacred and secular. In Christianity, women's convents operate within a patriarchal structure in which male authorities hold power over convent life. The nuns have some autonomy and support from the larger community outside, but in the end, it is men who make or approve final decisions. First of all, back in the day, that is, the medieval day, the convents were often founded by male clergy or rich patrons, so they were ruled by bishops or other high-ranking clergy. These people had the right to intervene in the running of the convent, including the discipline and spiritual guidance of the nuns. The rules under which they lived were usually established by men because they were, like from St. Benedict. The nuns' land, money, and property were controlled by male church authorities or secular leaders. So these holy women were dependent on the generosity and decisions of men. Today in the West, Christian women's convents are moving away from domination by male supervision, but it has been a slow and partial change, brought about by the women themselves. By seeking higher education and specialized training, they have equipped themselves to manage all their affairs. In India, the women's order is completely separate and autonomous. In the Vedanta centers here in the West, the women's monastic groups are under the guidance of the abbot, a monk of the Ramakrishna order, usually the Swami in charge of the center where the convent is established. But the women's group is not subject to male control as in Western monasticism. There is generally more of a hands-off approach to the day-to-day running of the communities. In Ramakrishna monasticism, the age-old vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience have been interpreted in ways that accord more freedom to the individual. The vow of chastity or celibacy, of course, remains the same as in Christian practice. About the vow of poverty, Swami Prabhavananda wrote, "Everything belongs either to nature or to God. The moment you label anything as yours, you begin to suffer from attachment. The ideal monk, therefore, subdues all his cravings for possessions, renounces the ego sense, and becomes content to live either in the midst of poverty or in the midst of plenty." The vow of a monk is not the vow of poverty as the expression would be generally understood in the West. It is a vow to cease craving for things. That's the end of Swami Prabhavananda's quote. Ceasing to crave for worldly goods and relationships is another way of saying non-attachment. The Vedanta philosophy puts a lot of stress on non-attachment. This is critical for spiritual advancement for monastics and non-monastics. There is no artificial deprivation. We want to spend the donations of the devotees wisely, maintaining the dignity and health of the community members while not going after every new item on the market. Swami Shivananda advised, "Why should a monk have money? He must depend entirely on God. The master is there to look after him. A monk should have everything neat and clean about him, but that does not mean that he should be luxurious. Those who tread the path of renunciation can ill afford to be luxurious." Swamiji said, "Sannyasins should have nothing to do with the rich. Their duties are with the poor. They should treat the poor with loving care and serve them joyfully with all their might. To pay respects to the rich and hang on to them for support has been the bane of all sannyasin communities. A true sannyasin should scrupulously avoid that." In our Western convents and monasteries, as well as in the ones in India, the members have to handle money. Vedanta monasticism doesn't take the originalist attitude of the conservative Supreme Court justices in insisting that everything should stay the same without updating for new realities. Our monks and nuns must adapt to advancing societal changes. We carry credit cards, manage bank accounts, are required to report for jury duty, and deal with tax reports. Then we have the vow of obedience. In Christian monasticism, the vow of obedience covers submitting to spiritual direction from appointed leaders, doing community duties, following the routine and schedule of the community, and accepting decisions of the community from the superior or those reached by democratic processes. These are expected of Ramakrishna monastic members as well. But in Ramakrishna monasticism, the importance of obedience is a distant third behind celibacy and non-attachment. Our primary and crucial obedience is to our spiritual teacher. When we receive initiation, our steadfastness to his or her instructions is the key to our spiritual progress. Our spiritual teachers have our ultimate spiritual success as their highest wish for us. If we neglect their advice or go against it, we are cutting off our own well-being. This one-to-one relationship with the spiritual teacher is another happy result for Westerners of transplanting the Hindu system. In India, scores of aspirants receive initiation without the opportunity to move with, much less serve their teachers. Here, the smaller size of the centers and the fewer members of the monastic communities promote a closer bond between a teacher and his or her students. Being able to observe a man of God from day to day and year to year infuses the true spirit of spiritual life into the Western student. Our culture is almost entirely lacking in these sublime role models. I think all Vedanta monastics would agree that we are extremely fortunate to have the opportunity of trying to live our lives according to Swamiji's blessings. Thank you.
So I'm very happy to introduce our final speaker, Swami Ishatmananda. I think it's been about 10 years since he came here. And we just briefly walked around the Shrine Trail. He was fresh into this country at this point, but back in India, he was a pioneering spirit. He started schools, orphanages, centers, very dynamic Swami. And now he's come and he's taking care of Chicago. He's taken over the center there. And so it's very nice to have him back. He also went on a road trip a couple years ago and actually one of the few people who came out to our remote ashram in the desert. So I got to introduce him to our dogs and spend a little time with him, and I was blessed to eat breakfast with him for a couple of days, and now I'm very happy to see him again. Swami Ishatmananda from Chicago.
Namasriyati Rajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Sarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Yati means sannyasi, monks. And Vivekananda is like a king among the monks. And why Yati? Because that is the stop. Yati Chinya, that means the stop. Why? What is the stop? He will never repeat this life. A sannyasi is not coming back to life again. Enough. So he is going back to the source. That is the Yati. And in Pune, they were inaugurating a temple. They had the Yati worship. All the 200 monks, they were waving the light, and that was beautiful. I don't know, some of you must have attended that. Vivekananda Surai, he is the hero, Vivekananda. And he is the embodiment of Sat Chit Ananda. Now, a few people in India, respectively Swamijis, Matajis, their devotees and the children, there are few people, and they're very thoughtful people, we call them Rishi, Muni. They observe three things very common in every being. What? No one wants to die. No one wants to die. Even in the 93, he is going to gym to somehow. Anyway, no problem. So this, no one wants to die, but why? In an ant, the ant life, you go to help him to kill him. No, he won't like to die. He will try to save itself. And everyone wants to know. Some of the neighbors, they are so curious. In the midnight, they like to know what is happening in the next neighbor's room. So, why this curiosity? Where from it came? And everyone wants happiness, isn't it? Everyone wants happiness. Oh, I will sell you my miseries, and in exchange I will give you $1 million. Nobody will purchase it. So obviously, these are the three things common. What? First, we don't like to die. We like to know, and we want happiness. Why? Because the source from where every of us has come, that ant, and we, and the Buddha, and the Christ, everyone has come from that source. And that is called Sat Chit Ananda. They give the name in that way. Sat, existence. Chit, knowledge. Ananda, is the bliss, is the happiness, it is the joy. When we were coming to this side, Swami Sarvadevanandaji showed us a place where all people are coming from different directions to enjoy drinking. So they're happy over there drinking. And after some time they will be unhappy because they have to drink something else to vomit out that, to throw out that. So this way they want to have joy, but they don't know where to find the joy. These people, they understood it. And these very, very intelligent people, they understood these are the things. Sat, Chit, Ananda, existence, knowledge and bliss. And bliss is the goal. One of our great, the Vedantin a teacher, he has written, out of these three, bliss is the goal. Ananda is the goal. And the Upanishad says, Anandeva khalu imani bhutani jayante. Very simple Sanskrit. Khalu, truly. From Ananda, from happiness, all these beings are born. And we want Ananda. How to get that Ananda? They tried many things. They wanted to get the joy from food, from money, from a different way, anything and everything of this world. But no Ananda. There are some stories. Yajati, a great king. No, there is no Ananda. So where to get the Ananda? You have to give up everything and you will get that. Tyage naike amritatta manasuhu. You have to give up tyaga, and then only you will get the joy. So I always remember that gentleman in Assam. I was in the northeast part of India. There I used to go give the talk, and one gentleman was there. He was a good person, but whenever I am giving the talk, he will stand up and raise his hand asking question. Not that for the question, only to get that attention of other people. He will say, where from I will get the joy? 2-3 times this happens, and one time I told, how? You have a building, three-storied building, is it? He said, yes. And you and your wife only, no children, right? Yes. So first floor and second floor you donate to Ramakrishna Mission, you will get 70% joy. And afterwards, when you die, give the whole building 100% joy. He said, I don't want that type of joy. So, tyage naike amritattva manasuhu. You have to give up. But what to give up? That is the problem. We don't understand. So, these people, they realized it. And so difficult to give up. One boy, he got a candy in one hand. The teacher was teaching mathematics. He said, this is 1. Then I give you one more. This is 2. So, minus. You give one of your friends come and take one candy from your hand. What will happen? He said, fighting. I'm not going to give it back. So obviously, the minus means what? No, it is all plus. This Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna also said, I don't know minus, everything plus, but in a different perspective. Everything is me. So they were teaching us. You know what they did? They divided the human life into 4 sections. Brahmacharya, Garhastha, Banaprastha, Sannyasa. First is your education. That is necessary. A student, Brahmachari, concentration, then you must study, and different type of, and what you should study? Dharma. So they gave different goals also. 4 goals. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Look at it. First is Dharma. What is the Dharma? Your responsibilities, your duties. And whenever you are accepting something, you must continue that. Don't hanker for other. This I have accepted, I am happy, I must perform this. I am happy over here, no problem. So that is the Dharma they should learn. Then with that they will earn money and enjoy. Whatever I like to do, I should do, it is my money. So by that way, finally moksha. It is not heaven. It is mukti. Why? Heaven means happiness. Somewhere we go. Of course, we need not to go to office and not even working from home. I get my food and everything. Some conception like that. That is the heaven. When I was in Andaman, one young girl, two of them, they came and they wanted to give me a book. There are some stories from the church and all that. They read it. And why? So you will get happiness. I'm already happy. You see, I have finished my breakfast and enjoying this wonderful ocean. Then they said, you will go to heaven. And the ma'am, have you visited heaven? Then she told, no. Do you know whether electricity is there or not? Or whether water supply is there or not? If you don't know, then why you are propagating that? First you go, then you come back and tell. I am also trying to go somewhere. If I am successful, I will tell you. So this is what is heaven, a place where you can enjoy. But in India, a lot of enjoyment. Because of the Himalaya, they are bordering the north, never allowing the chill breeze to come inside. And not only that, protecting the water-laden, clouds are coming, they will stop it. And so the rain. 7 rivers in India. Any pujaris, any of you, and the Hindus will great devotion, they will utter Gangecha, Yamuna Chaiva, Godavari, Saraswati, Narmade, Sindhu, Kaveri, and they will put this finger and putting that water very holy, and then they will sprinkle. What actually they are telling? 7 names of the 7 rivers. Nothing else. Why? Because these rivers helped us and the whole land became fertile. Because of that. Why the Himalaya, Deva Bhumi? It is only mountain, nothing else. Because the Himalaya is protecting us. And that is the reason. Very grateful nation. Where from the gratefulness came? From the same conception. I will tell you another thing that happened in the first day of the millennium. I was in Andaman again, and very small, the island. The governor, he told Swami, do you like to come with us? We are going to observe the first sunrise. I said, okay, I will. So I went over there. But the other people inside that, the huge ship, of course, and then army officers, navy officers, they were not happy though. Why? Because the governor told, Swami is here, he is a holy man, you should not drink. So I was not knowing that. So when afterwards someone came and told, why you have to come to this ship? So I'm sorry, I never knew it. But anyway, we sailed the whole night. Next morning, early morning, that was a unique experience. And all they went to the nearby, that island, it's called Kachal. So they went to and they were having the joy over there. I was pouring little Ganga water I carried with me into that ocean, Bay of Bengal, and worshipping the sun, first sun, naturally that way. Afterwards I came and sat for meditation on the ship itself, and I found some people, they are focusing big cameras. I told, who are you? What you are doing? We like to take your interview. I said, why me? Governor is there, so all big officers are there, government officers. And no, this is a special day. We are not going to, none of us will be observing this day next millennium. So we are enjoying. But why you are worshipping the sun? It is nothing but a star. Then immediately that the answer came to my mind. I told, suppose you are very hungry. Suppose you are very thirsty. You are going to die. That very moment someone comes and help you with some food and water. Will you forget that person? Won't you be grateful to that person who helped you to save your life? Of course we. And then I told, we know that this is a star, this sun. But because of the sun, every one of us is surviving. So we are grateful to the sun. And as a respect, we say, Devata, God, sun God. And that is the reason we worship the river. We know it is the river only. But the river water helping us, trees and all animals, because we are grateful to them. The first step of a human being, gratefulness. Satyam vada, dharmam chara, their teaching. You must be truthful. The India that we see now is not that original India. India was subjugated for a long, long period of times. The 700 to 800 period. 800, can you imagine? So obviously, how we could express our originality? Slowly now it is coming back. That was the gratefulness. Now these rishis, they were slowly guiding us to go to the ultimate goal of joy. Each and every one of us. He said, you must study, then enjoy your life, then retire, then prepare for sannyasa. What is sannyasa? Giving up. What to give up? Attachment. I was taking care of my son, then son grew up, then I am taking care of my grandson, and grandson is growing up. Hurry, when you will take care of yourself? The one gentleman told, Swamiji, after retirement, I am coming to join you. Okay. Then after retirement, he is nowhere. I knew that, but I just called him. Hey, we told after retirement you will come and help me. So, there is no one to take care of my grandson. Just let him be 18 years, I'm coming. So, attachment, that is the bondage. If you don't have the attachment, no problem at all. Even if you are living in a great place, nothing, no problem. Sometimes after coming over here in this country, I went to different places. I had to stay in the hotels, 5-star hotels and all. And when I enter into the room, I said, the same one bed only, and one table, and attached bathroom, that's all. Only thing, if you are touching the card, lights are on. If you are taking out the card, lights are off. So that difference and nothing else. There is a great view. The moment you remove the curtain, you see the great view. I am not going to see this view because I am going to sleep. But very costly room because the view. Useless things. And the people, they will be purchasing, they're paying extra cost so that they can see the ocean, or sometimes in Chicago, that great Chicago lake and all that. But when you go to their houses, ask them, how long you are looking at the lake? They have forgotten the lake is there. They're so busy inside and constantly observing the TV, this, that. So actually this is nothing. We imagine that we are enjoying. Nothing there. So they teach us that. First, brahmacharya, garastha, banaprastha, sannyas. And then they will give us the one after another you have to achieve. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And what is that moksha? I am going to be liberated from this bondage. Enough is enough. The food, I have taken enough. Drink, I have taken enough. Enough with all this. The moment you think where you go, your mind only, not the body. Body is going nowhere. Body will be remaining here. What happens to the mind only? And we are so much careful about the body. We go and we take care of the body, go to the gym, we are running and we are drinking costly water and this, that. Then afterwards, suppose you were supposed to die at 70 and you die at 65. What is there 5 years? Nothing. The body will be remaining here. What goes with you? What? Mind. And what is the mind's food? We never care about the mind's food. We care about the physical food. The mind's food is this wonderful talk. And when you are reading, when you are listening the music, and when you are listening the music, of course, the rhythms are very good. But what about the words? The meaning of those words? If you can ponder over that, meditate on that, it's beautiful. And that is the food of the mind. And at the fag end of our life, when I'm all alone in a hospice, I don't think we should be there, but if you are, and then you are thinking only those. Kruto smara, kritaggam smara, kruto smara, kritaggam smara. In the Upanishad it says, oh mind, remember what you have done. Have you done good things? All those will come at that time. Have you really helped someone? Prayed for someone? All those thoughts will come. And that your thought will be your constant companion. And that is the reason they said, must take Diksha. Why? Now the Guru will say only name. Oh, this name, I knew it. Oh, no. When the Guru is giving it, it's a power is there. That moment it is not manifesting. But if you go on repeating, and having the faith on that name, you will find beautiful. All those things are coming back to you, helping you. And you will be so happy to leave that old dilapidated body. As the Swamiji said, oh my father, I'm coming. Jai Prabhu Jai, in Bengali he said, I'm coming, my Lord, I'm coming back to you. I'm so happy. So that is called the spirituality, that is called sannyasa. And that tradition they developed, and they understood it is very difficult for many people. So what they did, they said, you better go step by step. And then they said, suppose you feel the urge to start your sannyasa life right from the brahmacharya, come on, go over there. That came much afterwards. Because in the Mahabharata, we never find the sannyasi. Munis are there, rishis are there. In the Upanishads also, Yajnavalkya. After all, the Yajnavalkya is preparing himself to take the sannyasa and distributing his property between the two wives. So all this, but at the same time, they were also there. The rishis were there, the 12 rishis, the great rishis. And the 4 brothers, Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatan, Sanat Kumar, the 4 brothers were there. Narada was there. They were there. The sannyasa concept was also there, but not in the way that today we see. That was the India. What they said for the sannyasins, as they were telling, sannyasi in bold say Om Tat Sat Om. You should not care about anything. But what householders will do? Pancha Mahayagya. That's all. Pancha Mahayagya, what are the 5? The first in the morning you get up and remember God. Because God is there. Something is there, whether called as God or Jehovah or Allah or Ishvara. Something is there. So I go and then burn an incense stick if possible. That's all. Then read some scripture. Very good book. That is the first is Deva Yajna. Then Rishi Yajna. Then Pitri Yajna. Remember your ancestors. When you are bathing under the shower, just remember your ancestors. Those who have passed away, or your father, your mother, I am grateful to you. Gratefulness. Otherwise, spirituality will never come. That gratefulness, I am grateful to all of you. Then Nri Yajna, I should save something for the people who cannot help themselves. God has given me intellect. God has given me so many things. But what about those people? Maybe they could not do. So I will help them. $1 every day I am saving. After 30 days, I give it to some good organization or directly go and help those people. The Nri Yajna. And also at the same time, we should give food to the birds and to the animals. By that way also you are getting all blessings. I leave some food. When I take the breakfast, I also give some food to the outside there. And 2, 3, and the squirrels will come. And if I am late, they will come and sit and look at me. Why you are late? So like that, as if. So this is the way their love, their affection is also coming. You are blessed. So that is the way the samskara, the impression comes. Now, I am sannyasi. My brother is not. But we are from the same parentage, same schooling, same where we grew up. How come that I chose this life? I liked it so much. But he never. And he was so happy that I have become a monk and not claiming the property. He blessed me with 2 hands. So, no, my brother is very good. But anyway. But anyway, so this always happened. Then why? Samskara, This is samskara. So many people are around. They will go and they will do something else to spend their time. But they won't come over here to listen. Never. They don't like it. They like when they see this type of dress, Halloween dress, they will say. So, okay. So that is the samskara. And I have seen so many people. One young boy came running and he hold this and he was telling, "Are you a Buddhist monk?" I told him, "I'm a Hindu monk." "Hindu? Oh, I don't know." So if you are a Buddhist, that is good. I'm to some extent Buddhist. Because Buddha was there, that's okay. So, but the respect for the Geruvas, respect for the ochre cloth, he loves it. So that is the way peoples that slowly developing, then comes the sannyasa. I will conclude with this. Now sannyasa was there. Shankaracharya is a great acharya. He came and he organized the sannyasins. Dasanami Sampradaya. All these Dasanama, 10. And in different way they distributed all these things, you know. And many a times the Swami said, and what about the Ramakrishna mission? Now Ramakrishna mission, the sannyasins are supposed to be, much afterwards it came, the sannyasins are supposed to be a Brahmin. Why? Because the 4 ashramas, they are there, that is, the ultimate ashrama is the Brahmana, the Brahmin. The Shudra, Vaishya, and that's Kshatriya and Brahmana. And they said, from the Brahmana only you can become a monk. And it's a very long period, 8,000 years, 10,000 years. So obviously so many things incorporated, and someone came and started doing something. And they said, I don't know who, they said, if you are crossing the ocean, you are losing your caste. So the Hindus, they were bound in the same, you cannot cross the ocean. But Swamiji never cared, Swami Vivekananda. He said, I have already given up my caste, I am a sannyasi. But he was not a Brahmin. How could he become a sannyasi? Majority of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna were not Brahmins. How they could become? But Sri Ramakrishna said that someone wanted to feed the holy people. And he said, if you are feeding them, each one equal to 100 sannyasins. And if you give them the ochre cloth, you will be earning a great merit. So that way Sri Ramakrishna trained them. The Naren was not a Brahmin, but slowly he uplifted his mind and in the Brahmanahood. What the Brahmana, in the Bhagavad Gita, they have given to what the Brahmana should do. All those qualities are there, much more. In the Ramakrishna mission, you see the Christians are there, Buddhists are there, from Americans, Japanese, Chinese, and even one Swami was there from Iraq. So, and we used to have fun with him. So I used to say, hey, you are in Belur Math? I will tell Saddam Hussein that you are here. So, and he's a great devotee of Ganga, so they gave the name Ganga Ananda. So he used to go and bathe 3-4 times in the Ganga. Now, so many varieties, so many Muslims, they have become monks. How it is possible? That we have broken all the tradition? No, not a single tradition. Swami Vivekananda said, we have to raise them to Brahmanahood. This is very important. When we join fast, we have to go on serving people and studying and meditating for past 4 years. Then you have to go to the headquarters. And from here it is difficult for these people won't be able to adjust the weather over there. So they have given some allowances. Okay, Otherwise, you have to go over there and 2-3 years rigorous. You have to study, you have to get up early morning, you have to go to the temple. Like that, constantly you forget the whole world. You have to forget the whole world. And you cannot talk with others, only studying and then only your brothers, that's all. And you know what type of work they will give? We have to serve the senior monks. And they will be sitting on the floor itself. So you are carrying the heavy something and putting. And with the dal, that lentils with the water. And when you are going to serve, one Swami will tell, only from below. Because in Belur Math, the poverty was there. So water more and lentils is less. So only from below you should give those, no water. So when you did that, next one said, only water, no lentils. And you have to wait over there so that it settle down, then you can give the water. Third one say, why you're wasting time over there? So shall you? Constantly you are going through this. But you should not be angry. Yes, Maharaj, yes, Maharaj, yes, Maharaj. But you are maybe that you are a highly educated person, maybe a PhD, maybe this, maybe that. You could be successful outside. But there, rigorously, why? You break your ego. They will break your ego. They will ask you to do this and do that and constantly rebuking this, breaking your ego. Even then, in Hindi, in the Indian language, they say, Guru ka ghar mein, at the door of your Guru, gai ka maafik pad raho. You must lie like a cow. The people are coming and beating, and you will be there. You won't leave. So like that you have to, your ego goes. Then only they will pour. And 4 years plus 2 years, and afterwards they will record your name officially. And then again another 4 years, I think after the 9-10 years, then only you are becoming an ardent sannyasi. That is the way. And he is the Brahmin, each and every one of us, a Brahmin. Sometimes we say, no, I was not, I am a Brahmin. Because all the Brahmin's qualities I am having. I have read Bhagavad Gita, scripture, I have meditated. There is no other thought but God in me. Am I not a Brahmin? I must be. This is the uniqueness of Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna. They introduced in this way. And you know, all the Swamis that they do, I went to one place. The one gentleman, he was very close to me. Am I taking more time? I don't know. A little bit? 1 or 2 minutes. So the gentleman, he was very close to me. And in Andaman again, he was the engineer in a ship. And he said, see, Ramakrishna Mission monks, it is a very easy life. You people get everything and so good food, good clothing. It is an easy life. Anyone can do it. I thought, okay. And that very day, in Andaman, we were very poor. So we were having only some, from the ground, one of our brahmachari used to go and collect those things. We were not having money. So we boiled that and rice. It was raining, so you could not go. He had to offer food, that only. He took only 1 spoon and then said, no, this is very difficult life. So then afterwards, he said, is there any real sannyasi in the Ramakrishna order? I was visiting his house. He was supposed to give me some donation, so I went there. And he said, Ramakrishna Mission is not having that good type of sannyasi like the Vivekananda, Brahmananda, Turiyananda. Then instead of directly answering him, I told, you were having other 3 brothers, right? So where they are? He said, oh, don't talk about them. I helped them to grow up. My father died very early. I used to earn, I used to help them. Now they have grown up. And then the other day they came and told, brother, now let us be separated. So I told them, I am not going to see your faces. Go away. I told, look at it. That is the nature of the male. The male don't like to depending on anyone. So naturally they came and told, brother, you have helped us to grow up. Thank you. Let us start our own family separately. But now look at us, the Ramakrishna Mission monks. Each and every one of them educated. And we are male body coming from different culture, different linguistic group, different countries. And we come over here, 2,000 of us. Last 100 years we are surviving. If this is not spirituality, what is spirituality? We can, because we have removed our ego. Whatever the abbot will say, the in charge will say, we will do. Sometimes I am not agreeing, but I will tell that afterwards. This moment, I will follow whatever he says. If the President Maharaj says anything, no question, you have to follow. Obedience. How the obedience come? You have to remove the ego. And when there is no ego, you are holy. You are God yourself. And what else? The moment you are removing the ego, Ami mole guchibe janjal, Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, he said, if you can remove your ego, all problems are solved. When the ego is not there, what remains? God only. So this is the teaching of the Ramakrishna Mission and all over, without the help of any government or the business houses or the rich people. You look at it, how we are spreading. You know the best contribution of the Ramakrishna Mission to the spiritual world? The literature. So many literatures everywhere. Now people, whenever they want, they can read, they can understand. And our monks and nuns, they're visiting all corners and try to give all these ideas to the people. And they're helping. If you are a householder, it is your duty as a householder. You must follow that. Don't think I'm nobody. I was liking that Mataji, she was telling. The household mean what? You are also practicing your dharma. I am practicing my dharma. That much. But where we will go to the same Ananda. And what is the expression of God? We always talk about God, God. What is God? Swami Vivekananda said, two. First, unselfishness equal to God. The moment you become unselfish, you are God yourself. Not that you have to grow 3-4 hands and some aura at the back or walking on the water. Only unselfishness. And then he said, looking at Sri Ramakrishna, when somebody asked about him, he said, L-O-V-E, personified. So what is God? Love and unselfishness. What is our goal? Love and unselfishness. Every moment of our life, whether 10,000 japa we are doing and at the same time frowning and fighting with everyone. No. Better be careful. Am I really growing? Because age, every day it is coming and taking away. Every day we are going towards death. Am I really concerned about it? That is called sannyasa, loving death. I love my death because it is coming to me. I know that. I'm waiting for it. I'm all ready. All my package is ready. And I am full with love and unselfishness. That is the introduction with the traditional monasticism by Swami Vivekananda and of course Sri Ramakrishna. Thank you, Maharaj, and thank you, friends.
Thank you to Swami Ishatmananda for an informative and inspirational talk. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, that's better. And thank you to all our Swamis who came today and contributed, and all our Pravajikas who came and contributed. And I think that you've probably all earned your lunch by now. And so I would ask all of you to leave the hall because we have to move the tables so that the Swamis can stay in here and eat. We are going to have for everybody out there 2 tables on the access road. It's going to take some time to set those up. So be patient. Food is coming. Thank you all very much for coming. And now let's have some nice food together. Okay. Yes. Oh, you're coming. Sorry, I didn't know. Almost. Wait 1 second.
Okay, hello. Just, okay. Just, you see, our subject was monasticism, and because it's a monastery, so it is a monastic principle in Catholicism. Wonderful explanation. We have heard so many ways. But what is monastic life? Monastic life is life of joy. So we can find through the talks and lectures how monastic life was joyful and cheerful, at least. That is called monastic life, and it should be always cheerfulness, joyfulness, not on mundane things but on spiritual things. And this renunciation, attachment, detachment, and all these principles, how can be done in this, following the principles of spirituality by developing the wonderful character in us. So we have heard it from different angles. So our thanks goes to all the Swamis who have contributed and spent some time. And it's a great opportunity to have so many nuns and monks together. It is rarely meet together and we get a chance. And thank you all for coming, Matajis and all our Swamis, and also the devotees who are also renouncing as antar tag. Okay, what is the term? Gupta yogis. Yeah, Ramakrishna's term, Gupta yogi. They were hidden yogis. You are all hidden yogis because you are carrying that same principle of renunciation ideal, and you coming to the monastery, giving up all other attractions, that itself is indicating that we are moving in the same direction. So I pray to Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother to bless us all so that we grow in spirituality, in genuine spirituality and real monastic. We can become a real monk inside and outside. Thank you.